Also, 5:25 is going to be Mincha Arvit, second Mincha Arvit at 9 o'clock. As well as we're going to be having Wednesday a shiur from Rabbi David Yosef and Thursday a shiur from Rabbi Zamir Cohen. We'd like to thank Torah Anytime as well as shul.com and Shari Ezra. Today is Tetvav Tevet Tavshin Pei Gimel, and it's brought down that when people have certain items that are brought to them, they don't know what bracha to make. So this is an unbelievable question that gets asked all the time. And I see people making these brachot, and unfortunately, they don't realize that they potentially could be making a bracha levatala if they don't realize it. Obviously, you're supposed to make the correct bracha, but if possible, a person, as much as possible, to know halachot brachot. So the halacha is, when it comes to, let's say, mushrooms, any fungi, obviously edible fungi, the question is, what bracha do you make? So I've seen people, myself included, that they make a Peri Haadama. Why? Because this item is from the ground, so Peri Haadama. However, scientifically, that's not true. The fungi is actually a mass, and it's a collection that gets spores, and it is yonik. It actually derives benefit from the air. And because it derives benefit from the air, although it looks like it's growing, quote unquote, from the ground, that happens to be where it's placed, because there's nowhere else to grow. But really, it's really a shakol niya bidvaro. So people don't realize that when you're making a bracha on a mushroom, it's actually a shakol niya bidvaro, not a Peri Haadama. However, if you're like most people, like myself included, and you didn't realize that, you say, well, it grew from the ground, so therefore I should make a Peri Haadama. If you make a Peri Haadama, it says Yakut Yosef Yatza. You're technically Yatza because you really can't blame somebody from thinking that it's not, because it does. It grows from the ground. So you technically are Yatza when you do that. The second question, which is sort of related to this same idea, is hydroponics. You have, let's say, vegetation. Alei Katif was a very famous brand of that, and they have other types of brands that are just like that have a very high level of kashrut because they don't have any of the vermin, any of the insects that are crawling around, because there is it is minimal amount of dirt that's being used. It's basically grown with using all the nutrients of water. So the question now is, what bracha do you make on hydroponics? So says Yakut Yosef, since it's basically more or less being yonek from water, and they use all the nutrients and everything that regular dirt will provide, it says shakol niya bidvaro. So if you were to take, let's say, alei katif, and it says hydroponics on it, you'd make a shakol niya bidvaro. What do you mean? It's lettuce. You make a Peri Haadama. Right, regular lettuce. You make a Peri Haadama, you have to check for bugs too. However, this is not regular lettuce, it's hydroponics, therefore shakol niya bidvaro. Again, if a person made a Peri Haadama, technically yatsa, because it's not their fault, it does technically have some item that is growing from the ground, quote unquote, and therefore it would be the same thing as well. Parenthetically also, they say seaweed, which has become a very popular for some reason, it's become a very popular snack. I'm not exactly sure why, but people like eating seaweed now. So what bracha do you make on that? Again, since it's being yonek from the surrounding area of water, although it's growing from the seabed and it's growing from the ground, it's also shakol niya bidvaro because technically it's like a hydroponic and you make a shakol as well. Again, if you make a Peri Haadama, yatsa, because people think that it's growing from the ground, and it's not so far-fetched to say that in such a case. And you don't have to be choshesh and assume that anytime you go to a supermarket or the shuk, maybe, possibly, I'm making the wrong bracha, I'm making really it's hydroponics. It's hydroponics, they'll tell you, and your wallet definitely will feel that as well, because they charge you a lot more for that, because you don't have to check for bugs, etc. So basically what we're coming out is hydroponics, you make a shakol niya bidvaro, but if you make a Peri Haadama, yatsa. It's brought down from both Gemara and Berachot in your Bavli and Yerushalmi. In both places, it says, Ezo ben olam haba, what's considered a ben olam haba? Zeh asomech kula letfila. And when talking about when a person says Gal Yisrael, and you say immediately Shmona Esrei of Arvit, says Rashi HaKadosh, he says Kol Sheken Shacharit as well, because that's when Geula Mitzrayim took place in the morning. So for sure, morning symbolizes Geula, symbolizes strength. So it's the same thing as well. A person should say Gal Yisrael, go right into that of saying the Tefillah. And Yerushalmi brings the mashal for that. He says you're coming in to literally speak to the Melech. You're knocking on the door, and you're not somech lula, and you're not about to walk. The Melech is coming out to greet you, and you turn right around. He says, "What an insult to the king!" And the king also turns around. He's like, "Okay, going to turn around right when I'm walking towards you. What's this business?" So Ga'al Yisrael, and immediately Hashem Sevatay Tivdach Baruch Atah Hashem. When you say that immediately, you're going right into that, saying that of Ga'al Yisrael, going into your personal tefillah of saying tefillah of Shemona Esrei as well. Two more ideas with this will conclude. Reb Shmuel Rozovsky brings the Chakira. When it comes to Rahman al someone who kills by accident, we know they go into Galut. They go into exile. So the question is, why? What's the reason for them going into the exile? The Torah tells us, but what's the purpose of that? Do we say the reason is because it technically is a punishment. You did this, although it was an accident, but technically you did that. So we're going to punish you, go out from the town that you grew up in or where you live in, and now you have to go into exile and feel what it is to go through the trouble of hitting the road. That's one shot. Or do you say, no, it's not a result of punishment, rather it's a kapara. Meaning, a person, you made someone's family, their life got disrupted. So we're going to disrupt your life. Binda keneged midah. It's an outgrowth of kapara. Not just necessarily a punishment. It's a kapara. You're going to say, what's the nafkamina? A very simple nafkamina. Do you have to say to yourself, as you're going from place to place, I have to say, al chet, and I have to think of... No, the action of me going from point A to point B, that's enough of a kapara. I don't need more kapara. Like Rahman al-San, that happened very recently that in a yeshiva in Bnei Brak, unfortunately, there's a machloket going on, and whatever, during one of the factions, a Sefer Torah fell out on Shabbat. So they didn't know what to do. So, whatever, some people were like saying, so don't have a machloket, all right? That's the pretty obvious one. But for some reason, the Chachmei Ador decided that's not the reason. Maybe they did, and they just told people, hopefully they told them to make shalom, I don't know. But what they told everyone is to be more careful with Kavod Beit HaKnesset, and the people who were there, technically they should fast, but it's too difficult for them. So they said, we're going to have a Yom Tefillah, everyone's going to do a kapara and rectify their ways and do real tshuva. Again, that's doing tshuva and understanding that if you're going to have a very tough day, you're only going to eat bread and water, zehu, and understand that you're going to sit in tefillah. That's a kapara. That's making you think of tshuva, so that should be enough. So the same thing also, going into galut, that should be enough. You're going into galut. Their actions indicate that you're doing a kapara. You don't need to only have the mindset, but also the fact that you're doing it obviously shows that you want to have kapara. You don't need anything more. Just a final idea, this will conclude. It says, Rashi HaKadosh tells us in the beginning of this week's parasha, it says, Ve'ele shemot b'nei Yisrael haba'im mitzrayma, Ruven shemot levi Yehuda, etc. It says all their names. Why does it say all their names? It says Rashi, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is laharot chibatam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to show how much He loves us. What does that have to do with anything? How do you, just because you say someone's name, it shows you love them? The answer is yes. When you show somebody your love, when you address them by name, that actually means you love them. If you know them by their name, right? Like, I one time had a very amusing incident that one time somebody kept coming over to me in Lakewood, New Jersey, and kept on telling me, I have unbelievable shidduch for you. He kept on seeing me in the Beit Midrash. He says, you're a real special person, and I have the unbelievable best girl for you. Okay, I'm like, okay, fine. Anyways, I wasn't getting any phone calls from my mother from this person. I knew who he was. I wasn't getting any phone calls from this person. Anyways, finally, after like 3 weeks, the guy comes to me and says, it's really bizarre. Every time I keep speaking to your mother, she keeps telling me that you're busy, and you're telling me you're not busy. Is there something going on? Maybe you're not telling your mother. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I speak to my mother all the time. He says, no, what do you mean? I called Mrs. Cohn. I'm like, Cohn? What are you talking about? Basically, he thought my last name was Cohn, right? So he didn't even know my name, right? So I kept on calling this poor lady, right? Yeah, exactly, right? But he kept on calling the wrong person, right? So he didn't even know my name. So you don't know me. I thought the guy knew me, but he didn't know me. So if you don't even know the person's name, that shows you don't know anything. And furthermore, it says like when Korach, he addressed Moshe Rabbeinu, he calls, is Ben Amram coming? He called him by his last name. So I always took from that when someone calls another person by their last name, that means, you call him by the last name. Hey, you, Sova, come here, right? But if you say, Yehoshua, come here. He knows my name, right? So for a person who knows that, you call a person that, la'arot chibatam. Try to address people by their name, make them feel comfortable, and ultimately you'll show, indeed, that you have love towards them as well. Rabbi Chanan ben Akasha Omer, Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu, l'zakot et Yisrael, lefikach habam Torah mitzvot, shenemar al donecha v'tzvan tzeko, yadir Torah v'yadir. Amen.